Welcome to today's video. And in today's video, I want to share with you an experience that we had during the week with our car. So sit back, relax, have some coffee, and give this video a watch for the next few minutes. On Monday, we were out in the car and we were traveling to a burial, and we were part of a convoy, as is custom in the Philippines whenever you're traveling to a burial. So you had at the front, you had obviously the hearse, and then followed by the motorbikes, the tricycles, the jeepneys, and some of the cars as well. So we were probably in the middle of that convoy, and we were driving to a cemetery that was around 40 minutes away from our village. So a bit of a distance, but that's okay. And as we came off the main road, we had to go on to a side road that leads up to the cemetery. So the cemetery was probably about 15 minutes away from the main road. And so we were traveling along this road, and because it's no longer the main road, it is still concrete, but it starts to get narrower, and so it makes it difficult for if there's traffic coming in the opposite direction. So you have to proceed. You have to drive with caution and be extra careful. Anyway, so as we were traveling as part of this convoy along this narrower road, all of a sudden the brakes in the car stopped working, and so I was quite shocked. I was quite panicky, and thankfully we had just come down a hill, so we were no longer on the hill when the brakes seized, and we were able to pull over to one side on the bridge, which is quite wide. And so I put the handbrake on, and we stopped the car basically on the bridge, and the remainder of the convoy passed by on the other side. So we stayed there for a few minutes, and we came to the conclusion where we realized that the brake fluid was empty. And so that's something that obviously you need to keep an eye on, and you need to keep an eye on your car for a lot of things. So we restarted the car, restarted the engine, and checked the brakes, and the brakes were working fine. And at this point, the cemetery was only 5 minutes away, so we continued our journey to the cemetery just very carefully. And we arrived at the cemetery, attended the burial, and obviously we decided that, well, we need to buy brake fluid. So we were going downtown later that day, and as we were driving downtown later on in the day, there was no issues with the car until we actually got into the town itself, which was a relief, because if we had have broken down maybe outside of the town, it would have been a more difficult situation for us, because you're perhaps in the middle of nowhere. You're stuck on a different kind of road compared to the downtown area. So we drove into town, and then the accelerator started. Was it revving? Was that what it was doing, Tina? Revving? Well, it was. Well, the accelerator was starting to. You could hear the engine was starting to rev, and so we realized, well, maybe there's another issue here, and we managed to navigate around the roundabout, and we were heading towards towards possibly a car shop anyway, because we needed to buy brake fluid. And then I realized that, oh, it's not working. The clutch would not go down. The clutch was very stiff, so it would not go down, and the engine had stopped at that point. And so my car was slowly coming to a halt. So I realized what I had to do. I had to park up on the side of the road, and thankfully in the downtown area the roads are wide. On this day there was plenty of spaces on the side of the road for me to just go in and park the car on the side of the road. So we parked the car, switched on the hazard lights, and actually, guys, the area where we stopped was basically outside a mechanic's place, a motorbike mechanic shop. And so we asked around, and we asked for a bit of help. And one of the guys was like, well, we're actually very busy here, so we can't do anything. But what I can do for you is I can go to pick up a mechanic and bring him here for you. And so he was able to get on his motorbike and drive possibly 5 minutes away from where he works to the other mechanic and bring him back to us. And I thought that's a really good service, because he didn't have to do that. He could have just said, well, you could book in an appointment with us for another time or something like that. But he went out of his way, out of his busy day, to help us. And so he brought the mechanic to us. And obviously, we knew what the issue was. We hadn't been able to put the brake fluid in time. We hadn't got to buy the brake fluid as of yet, but that was what our one of our aims was. And so we opened the bonnet, they checked it, and they was like, oh yeah, you've got no brake fluid. That could be an issue there. But they did other examinations as well, just to make sure. And so myself and Tina, we went to the shop across the road to see if they had any brake fluid, but unfortunately they didn't. And the guy on the motorbike who had brought the mechanic here, he said, oh, well, there's a shop further on down. So if we give you the money, if we give him the money, then he will go and buy the brake fluid for us. He will go on his motorbike. And so that was another kind gesture that he did. He went on his motorbike, he went to the shop, he bought the brake fluid, and he came back, and we were able to put the brake fluid into the car and restart the car. And we did a test run, and the car was working fine. So we really appreciated their help. We really appreciated what they did for us. But we decided that it would probably be best to get the car checked over, just in case there's been some damage left. We said to the mechanic, is it possible that we could book in for an appointment tomorrow to get the car checked? And he was like, you can just come on to my place today. You can just come to my place today, and we'll have a look for you now. And so that was really kind. So we decided, well, we'll follow this guy on the motorbike to his place. And so we followed him maybe about a 5-minute journey, and it was still in the downtown area, except it was down a road that made it look like it was in the rural countryside. So it was basically his house with a workshop. And so he and his team decided to examine the brake pads in the tires, just to make sure there were no issues. And so they took it one by one. And then one of the brake pads, they discovered there was some damage to it. It had been leaking the brake fluid, which explained why the brake fluid was empty. So they were able to examine that and fix the issue for us. And so it just got me thinking about how I've heard horror stories about people who have had issues with cars in the Philippines, particularly foreigners. And I've heard stories on YouTube about foreigners who said that that in the Philippines you will be charged higher prices because you're a foreigner. You'll be you charged a skin tax, if you like. And so I was thinking to myself, are we going to get charged quite a lot here, because they might take advantage because I'm a foreigner? And so once they'd finished the work, we asked them the price, and they said 1,200 pesos. Guys, that's less than £20. In my home country, something like that would cost maybe over £100 to get fixed. So it's quite amazing when you think about it, because these guys went out of their way to really go the extra mile for us. The guy in the motorbike shop, he went on his motorbike to get that mechanic. So we gave him some money for gasoline, and then that mechanic allowed us to go back to his place without scheduling an appointment and look at the car straight away. And so we were done within a couple of hours. So I was really impressed with the service. We were really impressed with their service and their work. If you're a foreigner watching this video and you're thinking to yourself, oh well, I've heard stories about the Philippines where they'll try to charge you extra. That's not always the case, because there are Filipinos that are honest and trustworthy, and that has been my experience here on the island of Guimaras. So the guy charged us 1,200 pesos. That's a really good price. So we had to tip him. You know, we just felt that we needed to tip this guy because he went out of his way for us. So we ended up paying 1,500, including the tip, which is fine. But I just wanted to share that experience with you guys, just about how that was a positive experience. Because sometimes you see people on YouTube talking about negative experiences in the Philippines. But I wanted to give you an example of a positive experience that we had during this week. And of course, and thankfully, the car is running smoothly again. So we're thankful for that. But that's all for today's video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.